Hey K-pop fans! If you love staying updated on the biggest K-pop moments, you're in the right place. Today, I'm talking about a story that has the entire K-pop world buzzing, the record-breaking comeback from BLACKPINK, and why their new album has fans celebrating, while critics are seriously divided. When I first saw the numbers, I honestly thought there had to be a mistake because the latest release from Blackpink didn't just perform well, it absolutely exploded. Their third EP, Deadline, dropped on February 27th and immediately started rewriting the record books for K-pop girl groups. Within its first week alone, the album sold an incredible 1,774,577 copies, according to Hanteo Chart. If you're a K-pop fan, you know that first-week numbers are a huge deal because they show how powerful a fandom really is. And in this case, the fandom delivered in a massive way. In fact, the album beat the previous record held by aespa and their 2023 release, My World, which had sold around 1.69 million copies in its first week. That record itself had once felt almost impossible to break, but Blackpink managed to push past it with ease. And the list of groups sitting just behind them shows how competitive the K-pop industry has become. Right below Blackpink's new record sits NewJeans with their hugely successful Get Up, followed by IVE and their album IVE Mine, and then Blackpink's own previous album, Born Pink. Just looking at that ranking really shows how intense the competition among K-pop girl groups has become in recent years. But what made this comeback even more impressive was how fast the album started selling. On the very first day alone, Deadline moved more than 1.46 million copies. That kind of opening is the type of thing you usually only see when a group has one of the most dedicated fan bases in the world. And if you've ever spent time around Blinks, the name for Blackpink fans, you know they take comeback season very seriously. Fans around the world organize streaming parties, mass album purchases, and social media campaigns to support the group. The global excitement was obvious when the album quickly climbed the charts on iTunes, topping the top albums chart in 38 different regions worldwide. When YG Entertainment saw the early numbers, the company even released a statement saying global demand had exceeded expectations, so much that additional production was already underway. In other words, they literally needed to print more albums because fans were buying them faster than expected. Moments like this remind me why Blackpink's impact on K-pop is so huge. Ever since their debut, the group has built a goes far beyond music. Each member has become an international icon in fashion, social media, and entertainment. So whenever Blackpink releases new music, it becomes more than just a comeback. It turns into a global event. But here's where the story gets really interesting, because while fans were celebrating record-breaking numbers and huge sales, the reaction from music critics was completely split. As the excitement around Deadline continued to grow, music critics from major international outlets started publishing their reviews, and reading through them felt almost like watching two completely different conversations happening at the same time. Some critics absolutely loved the album and praised Blackpink for returning to what made them special in the first place. For example, the famous music magazine Rolling Stone published a glowing review titled "Blackpink are back in peak form" on Deadline. The review praised the group's signature style, saying the members continue to mix fierce energy with playful charm in a way that feels completely unique to them. Another publication, All Music, gave the EP 4 out of 5 stars. The review described the album as short and sweet, highlighting how it showcases different moods and musical styles that the group can pull off so easily. For fans reading those reviews, it probably felt like confirmation that Blackpink's comeback had delivered exactly what they were hoping for. But then there were other critics who had a very different reaction. One of the harshest reviews came from Pitchfork, which scored the album 5.7 out of 10 and criticized it for relying on sounds they felt were already outdated. According to that review, some of the music felt too familiar and didn't push the group's sound forward enough. Another outlet, Slant Magazine, also delivered a much colder response. The publication rated the album 2.5 out of 5 stars and described the songs as being built with predictable formulas, almost like they were assembled on a factory production line. For fans, reading such different opinions about the same album can feel confusing. On one side, you have critics praising BLACKPINK for being at their peak again. On the other side, you have reviewers saying the music feels repetitive. But honestly, if you've been a K-pop fan for a while, this kind of divide probably isn't surprising. K-pop comebacks often create very strong reactions because the industry moves so quickly and expectations are always sky high. When a group as huge as BLACKPINK releases new music, everyone has an opinion. Some people want the group to experiment with completely new sounds, while others just want them to deliver the powerful style that made them famous in the first place. Meanwhile, the numbers tell their own story. Regardless of what critics think, fans around the world clearly showed up in full force to support the comeback. Selling nearly 1 million copies in a week is not something that happens by accident. It takes a massive global fandom and years of building trust with listeners. And that's exactly what BLACKPINK has been doing since the beginning of their career. For Blinks, the success of Deadline feels like proof that the group still dominates the K-pop world even after years at the top. Whether critics love the album or criticize it, the reality is that the music is being heard everywhere right now. Streaming numbers are rising, album sales are soaring, and the conversation around BLACKPINK is once again dominating the K-pop scene. And honestly, as a K-pop fan myself, moments like this are always fascinating to watch because they show how powerful fandom culture can be and how music can spark completely different reactions depending on who's listening. One thing is certain though, with numbers like these, BLACKPINK has once again reminded everyone why they remain one of the biggest girl groups on the planet. And if this comeback is any indication, their influence on K-pop isn't slowing down anytime soon. Thanks for hanging out with me, fellow K-pop fans. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like the video, subscribe for more K-pop news, and tell me in the comments what you think about BLACKPINK's new album. I'd love to hear your opinion.